Introducing the Bite Me Cannabis Club. The Bite Me Cannabis Club aims to be an inclusive online space for cannabis lovers. Whether you're simply curious about how cannabis can improve your life or you're fully seasoned, there's always more to learn. When you join the Bite Me Cannabis Club, you'll have access to like-minded people interested in cannabis, monthly workshops, live Q&As, recipes and recipe swaps, digital cookbooks, a fully functional chat feature, and a whole lot more. For a limited time, it's only $5 a month with a 30-day free trial so you can try it out and see if it's right for you. This isn't just another Facebook group or confusing Discord channel. I carefully chose a platform that offers a clear, uncluttered, and seamless community experience. See for yourself, join today, say hello. I can't wait to connect with you there. Join the Bite Me Cannabis Club today. Link in your podcast app. In this episode, we're doing Zen Zingers, the adult gummy candy making kit. Welcome to Bite Me, the show about edibles where I help you take control of your high life. I would be your host, Marge, and I'm happy to take you on this journey today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate the time you take out of your busy schedule to listen to my show. So before we get into it, this week, what has been going on? Well, I'm very excited to announce that I just received an email earlier today, actually, at the time of this recording, that Bite Me, the show about edibles, has hit number 242 Society and Culture Apple Podcasts in Colombia. So that was a pretty exciting email to get, number 242, which admittedly is pretty low on the chart. I'm not really sure how many are on said chart in Society and Culture. That's the category that I was placing in. But you know what? Just being on any chart is kind of exciting because this is a little show from my little corner of the world, and I have a wonderful handful of listeners who are following along each week. And why Colombia? I'm not really sure. I didn't realize I had very many listeners in Colombia or South America generally, but there must be a few of you out there, so much appreciated. It makes a podcast host feel pretty good, I have to say. So that's the exciting news for today. Number 242, an Apple Podcast, Society and Culture. The only place I can go from there is up, though, right? So that's also excellent news. And of course, anytime anyone makes it onto any chart, I mean, it's kind of exciting. So enough of that. Zen Zingers. I have seen these around quite a few times over the last year or so. I've always been a little bit curious about them because, I mean, anything where you can make your own gummies and it's a complete little kit is kind of intriguing, of course, because I am an edibles lover. That would appeal to me naturally. I've never had a chance to get my hands on them until recently. Now, of course, they do sell them online, but I had kind of forgotten about them when a new dispensary in my town opened up. And being the curious bud tender that I am, I thought I was literally walking right by. This happens to be one that's pretty close to my house. It's like a 10, 15 minute walk away, and it's in this plaza that has a grocery store and stuff. And I was walking to the plaza one day, and I thought, it's open. I've been wanting to check it out. It's time for me to go in. I was naturally curious to see what the competition was like. And of course, a lot of these new dispensaries that are popping up in my town, they're beautiful. They're well designed. They have lovely fixtures and features in them. But of course, what sets one dispensary apart from the other, because we're all pretty much selling the same product, is usually staffing, staff knowledge, and product selection. I was a little surprised to see that they had only a fraction of the products that we carry in the store that I'm at. And they were way more expensive. I was very surprised at that, actually. So I was low-key about it. You know, I looked around, but it's weird sometimes going into a dispensary and not buying anything. And I thought, I got to buy something. But of course, all the weed was overpriced. I could literally buy almost everything that was in that store for almost $10 less at my store. And of course, I do enjoy a nice discount as well as staff, as one of the perks of working in a dispensary. So I happened to see these Zen Zingers adult gummy candy making kits. And they had a few of them on display. And I was like, ooh, I've been looking at these before. And I really kind of like the message that they're putting out. The boxes are fun and bright and colorful. And on the side, it says in big writing, craft your own experience. And of course, because we're in Canada, They are in 2 languages. Créez votre propre expérience. That's my little smattering of my French. And on the back, it lets you know what's inside the box. And so you have the silicone mold and dropper, gummy mix to create 15 gummies, finishing sugar, easy step-by-step instructions, dosing table, and I guess that's it. So I thought, you know what, I got to try these out. So that's what I picked up at the store, at that dispensary that I was, low-key spying on, I guess, for no other reason, just to satisfy my own curiosity about what it was, what it's like in some of these other new dispensaries that are coming to town. I am happy to say that my dispensary is probably has one of the largest selection in Ontario, or so I've been told. It's pretty high up there anyway. I mean, if you want to go into a store and have 100 different indicas to choose from, you should come see me, but I digress. So that is what I decided to buy, was one of these Zen Zinger kits. I chose the flavor Cherry Bomb. The one caveat that you have with these is the kit includes everything you need except for the infused oil. And you have to buy that separately. I already had some stuff at home, of course, so I didn't need to do that. But that is one thing to keep in mind when you're buying these. And it's, of course, it says right on the box on the front, does not contain CBD. So the instructions were kind of written like you'd be using these more for CBD gummies versus THC, though it did give you instructions for both. But that is an additional cost that you're going to have to put out. The kit that I bought was about $20. I did buy another one from my own store for a few dollars less. So it's worth sometimes checking around to see who carries them, because you might be able to get a better price. But I mean, we're talking a couple bucks. It's not really a big deal. We just happened to get these kits into my own store about 2 or 3 weeks later. So I picked up another one to try a different flavor. But what I kind of like about them is they do contain everything you need in the box to get started, to get going, as long as you buy the oil, CBD or THC infused oil that you need to go with it. And so the Cherry Bomb I tried first, and then the second flavor I got was Cosmic Cola. They had fun names for them. I can't remember the fun names of the other ones, but in my store, we also got in a mango and a raspberry flavor that both looked very nice. And I did have it pulled up on my computer, of course, and now I don't, because why I closed it, I'm not really sure. But I'm just going to have a look here, because I thought there was another flavor on the website that they didn't have. There's the cherry, the raspberry, the mango, the cola, and they also had a pink grapefruit and a peach. Now, some of these were also refill packs. So online, I haven't seen these in the store, nor did I notice them in the other dispensary that I went into, but they have refill packs. You don't necessarily have to buy the whole kit again. So that's kind of nice to know that you can just buy a refill. And I will say, I gave these a shot. I've done them, made them twice now, and I've never made gummies so quickly in my life. That is a huge plus to these particular edibles, is that they were pretty fast to make. And you really don't have to have much in the way of cooking skills in order to pull these off. So if you're somebody who's just like, I could burn water or whatever, then you could probably still make these. Because essentially all you're doing is, it comes with the mix to make the gummies. You're adding that into a pot. You add 3 tablespoons of water, and then you bring it to a boil. You leave it for exactly 4 minutes, and that is in bold on the instructions. Exactly 4 minutes. And then you take it off the stove, and that's when you stir in your oil, your THC or your CBD oil. I did also like that the instructions, they were very clearly laid out, and they sort of had you set aside all the things you would need to make these gummies, so you weren't scrambling at the last second. And that's always kind of nice to remind people to do, because it wasn't just get the stuff out of the box, but it was like, you're going to need a pot, and you're going to need a wooden spoon, and to get all that stuff out. I did use a silicone spatula instead of a wooden spoon, because I feel like that stuff is easier to get the goods off of the silicone spatula rather, instead of a wooden spoon where it would cling some more. So I would opt for that if you have one in your drawer instead. A little pro tip from your girl Marge here. What else? They also had very clear steps on calculating the potency of the edibles. So clearly they're concerned that you don't want to overdose yourself, which definitely makes sense because a lot of people buying these kits, maybe people who don't have a lot of experience making edibles. A lot of us who are listeners of this show are probably very experienced at making edibles, so that's not necessarily a concern as much, but I was happy to see that there's very clear instructions so nobody accidentally overdoses themselves. And the other thing is it does come with the molds. And interestingly, the cherry bomb flavor came with a bright green silicone mold, which is great because you can reuse that for your own purposes. And they had like the imprint of THC on the bottom. The Cosmic Cola ones, instead of the molds having the THC imprinted on them, had smiley faces. So depending on what kit you get, you might get different molds. So that's kind of interesting. I did like little smiley faces, probably better than the THC, but either one's fine. It did come with the dropper to make it, but I will say I've had droppers before, and I find it is one of the worst ways to put the liquid, the hot liquid from the pot, into your molds. And basically because I find that you have to work pretty quickly because gummies start to get, they're going to start to set. Not too quickly, but they will. And you get these stringy pieces. And I find that the droppers just sort of don't dispense very well. Anytime I've gotten molds, I've bought some molds off Amazon before, these silicone ones, and they came with them. And I think after the first couple times trying to make gummies, I got rid of those droppers altogether. They're a bigger pain in the ass than they're worth. So if you're going to try something like this, I would actually recommend a silicone measuring cup, and it doesn't have to be big. I actually got a set of 3 from Magical Butter Machine quite a while ago, and I love them because they're malleable so that you can pour and heat resistant. So you can pour something really hot into them and you're not going to burn your fingers. But you can hold them and squeeze them in such a way that it creates a nice little spout, and it's way easier to dispense things like that into molds than trying to use a dropper. So I'm sure Magical Butter is a great place to look for those. We can probably find those in a well-stocked grocery store or home supply place or something like that, or Amazon or what have you. But I would recommend doing that over the dropper because the droppers are just messy. They kind of suck. So that's what I have to say about that. Now, again, basically all you're doing is boiling the stuff and then stirring in the oil. And for the first batch, for the cherry bomb, I used a distillate dosing pen. And that's something else I'd picked up from the dispensary quite a while ago from my dispensary. And I've played around with it a little bit, but I used a bunch of the distillate dosing pen in the gummy mix. So after you boil it on the stove for exactly 4 minutes, you take it off the heat, you let it sit for 30 seconds, and then you add in your oil. And I'm assuming that's so the temperature goes down enough so that you're not going to burn off the cannabinoids in your oil. And so I had my little pen, and you just, every click for these original stash click pens, every click dispenses a certain amount of the oil inside the pen. And it was pretty easy. I did it into a little measuring spoon. I sort of pre-calculated the number of clicks I would need to do, so the dose that I'd want for these gummies to make them a reasonable potency. And then I mixed it in with the mix, gave it a good stir to make sure it was evenly distributed throughout the mixture as I could. And then you just put it in your molds. Do put your mold, if you can, on a plate or something like that, because I find that the silicone molds are because they're so malleable and you've got hot liquid in them, it says to fill them 3/4 of the way up, but sometimes if you fill it all the way up to the top, which is pretty easy to do, they can slosh around a little bit, or it's just easier if you can pick up the plate and put it in the fridge to set, as opposed to trying to carefully pick up a floppy silicone mold. So my other pro tip for the day. So I put it in, and then you let them set overnight. You could probably do it for a shorter time, but you do let them set in the fridge, and that's it. Then you pop them out of the molds. You just put your finishing sugar in a little dish and roll them around in that. Put them in a container, and you're done. Literally some of the easiest gummies that I have ever made. So as far as the ease of making gummies, I would say that's high up there as being easy and fun to do because they are so short. Now, when I made the Zen Zingers Cosmic Cola, I opted instead to try an infused MCT oil that I had on hand because I have infusions coming out my ears. I thought, hey, its own oil is an oil. Well, the MCT oil did not really mix very well with the gummy mixture. It didn't mix very well at all. It kind of wanted to stay on top. And so when I poured it out, a lot of the MCT rolled off the gummy mixture into the silicone mold. So it was basically like just the MCT oil in that one first indent in the mold. And I was like, well, that's not good. So I was trying to mix it as I was pouring it out. If it was just the MCT oil, I only put a tiny bit in. And then by the end, it was better, but it didn't work out nearly as well as that other distillate oil that I was using. So that makes me think that if you're doing this at home and instead of buying a distillate oil or something like that from a dispensary, if you can get your hands on it, you're better off perhaps using maybe a thicker oil. MCT oil is pretty viscous, although a lot of commercially made oils are set in an MCT oil. So this kind of confuses me as to why this happened. Maybe if you have an answer, you can always let me know. Send me an email or a voice message. But perhaps a regular coconut oil would work better. It's at room temperature. It's going to be more solid. It's, of course, going to melt when you add it to the hot mixture, but hopefully you'll get something a little more uniform. Because I'm thinking if I used an infused olive or avocado oil, you might run into the same problems. I found when it's set in the fridge too, the MCT oil rolled off. Like it still didn't really mix in. And so the potency of those ones may not be nearly as good because I feel like I, wasted a little bit. Now I didn't put in a whole ton because it only makes 15 gummies, which isn't a ton, but I don't want to make like crazy potent ones. So I did, I think, tablespoon and a half, and I'd have to look back up my notes to find out how potent my MCT oil was. Well, once I do that, I can calculate how potent each gummy is supposed to be, but because it didn't mix very well, I'm not sure they're going to be too potent at all. However, I was almost doing that one more for the taste versus more than anything, because the cherry bomb flavor has this sort of weird how would I describe it? It had like a weird aftertaste I wasn't really crazy about. And I was kind of like, if this is what this is going to taste like, I'm not really sure these are good. And so I tried the Cosmic Cola, and the flavor of the Cosmic Cola was great. It definitely had a distinct cola flavor. There was no sort of oddly bitter aftertaste, which is what I got with the cherry bomb. And it does make me kind of want to try some of the other flavors like the raspberry and the mango. But so far of the two, the Cosmic Cola was definitely better than the cherry bomb. So in my opinion, my humble opinion, of course, if you want to go out and try these, go for the Cosmic Cola over that one. And be mindful of what you're going to be putting in it. Sometimes picking up an oil from the store can be handy because the potency is sort of figured out for you, especially if you're doing this. You might want to give them away to somebody. I'm always so cautious about giving homemade edibles to people because when you're making them yourself, I have found, I don't know if you found this, but when I'm making infusions, I've been making infusions now for so long, I kind of have like a baseline for the potency. Like you just kind of know over time that if you make this coconut oil with this much cannabis in it, that it's probably going to be in this ballpark. Now, of course, there's always a few variables, but that's sort of, something you can get away with. But then when you're giving them to somebody, especially if you don't know what their tolerance is, and a lot of people have no idea what they can tolerate as far as potency goes, it can be really risky to give edibles to somebody when you don't know what the actual potency is, even if you've kind of guesstimated, which is why I always love to give, like if I'm giving somebody some cookies, I always give them like an extra one as the test cookie, because that way I can be like, cut it up into 8 pieces if you have to. Like if I figured this cookie's 40 milligrams, cut it up into 8 pieces, have that little bite and figure out your tolerance from there. And then you have all these other cookies to enjoy based on what you figure out. So there's some people who are like, that quarter cookie is going to do me. And other people are like, I'll eat 2 cookies in a sitting. Everybody's so different. So sometimes the commercial made oils, if you're going to be gifting these, can be pretty handy. Of course, if you don't have access to them, just maybe, just be careful. Try and figure out your potencies as best as you can. always err on the side of caution and always warn people that you're giving them to that they should also be cautious. Now, most people, of course, if they've had any edibles, have probably overdosed at some point and are naturally cautious, but some people just don't know. And especially those who might be heavier smokers or whatever often assume that they have a higher tolerance, but this is not the case. Definitely not the case. Anyway, I digress. We are probably all familiar with the idea of trying not to overdose our friends. So just be careful, of course. Now, the one thing about these is, I think I calculated with the click pen that I had bought a while ago and the cost of the gummy making kit, I was probably at about $2.60 per gummy. And this isn't really something I sit down and figure out too often, but I was just kind of curious because you're having to buy the kit and the oil. Still less expensive than buying a lot of edibles on the legal market. I mean, in my store, a 2-pack of edibles might cost $7.50 because of the limitations of the Canadian legal market right now. 2 edibles, that's only going to be 5 milligrams. You can make these gummies as strong as you want, of course, depending on what oil you're putting in them. So obviously, you're getting 15 gummies out of the pack, and buying the ones in the store, $3.50 plus tax a piece, give or take. That's a bit more expensive, but so it's still less expensive than buying on the legal market. Probably not as probably more expensive, however, than just making your own from scratch, because a lot of the ingredients that go into making gummies are pretty inexpensive. We're talking like corn syrup and sugar and, some pectin and some finishing sugar. A lot of it's pretty inexpensive ingredients. And you may think, well, you have to buy all that stuff. But a lot of those batches that you're making when you're following recipes to make gummies will make a lot of gummies, like way more than 50. And they might make 4 or 5 trays of 15. So there's that trade-off there. But if you're looking for a super quick edible to make, these aren't bad. Now, where you might find that there are also really good is that these can be a great gift idea for somebody who, who's kind of enjoys edibles, but they're not really an edibles maker. You either like to make them or you don't. And sometimes people might enjoy making a quick little project like this when they don't want to get into a longer project like making more involved gummies. So this can be a great gift idea. And maybe it would be a fun housewarming gift, or, instead of bringing a bottle of wine, you can bring something like this. Of course, you might want to make sure you bring the oil to go with it as well. But, it could be a fun gift idea. I will say also, before I forget, the texture of these gummies was pretty good. Now, the cherry bomb ones I found, they were less like a traditional gummy, which are pretty soft and have that gummy texture. And I think a little more like a pâté de fruits, which is chewier, a little harder and chewier. The Cosmic Cola ones I did find to be softer than the cherry bomb, but I didn't let them set for as long. I'd made them sort of in the morning and then was testing them out at night. And they are supposed to be set for 24 hours, so they might harden up a little bit more. But the texture is a little different than a traditional gummy bear that you'd buy at a grocery store or whatever. So keep that in mind as well. But the flavor was really great. So there you have it. Zen Zingers. They have an online website I will link to. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever. I just wanted to try it out because I've seen them around before and they look like fun. And it was a really fun project and a really quick and easy way to put together an edible in under 10 minutes. You do have to wait for them to set, but if you want something that you can put together in under 10 minutes, or you're looking for some gift ideas, these are fantastic. I'm assuming they will ship anywhere. The company is based out of BC, but I don't know. I'm assuming they'll ship anywhere. And there's probably other fun adult gummy making candy kits on the market. And if you know of any, or you've tried any that you think would be fun for myself or the audience to know about, let me know, because I would love to hear about those too, because I think these kinds of kits are a lot of fun. And yeah, it's just another way to get high, my friends. Isn't that right? So give them a try. If you do try them, let me know. If you've tried other ones in the past that you think are particularly noteworthy, again, please let me know. I always love to hear from you. And I hope you're making some great edibles this week, my friends. Stay high. The adult candy making. Oh, shit. I love listening to podcasts while I'm puttering around Shoot. Are you tired of trying edibles that are inconsistent in strength and flavor? Attempting to figure out your tolerance? Do you want to take control of your edibles experience and find the optimum combination of factors that results in the best outcome? If so, this edibles journal is perfect for you. The Bite Me Edibles Journal provides a convenient and organized way for you to track and record your edibles experience, whether it's homemade edibles or store-bought. It includes 48 fillable pages. It's sized 8.5 by 11 for plenty of writing space, includes information on calculating the potency of homemade edibles, and it was created by an edibles expert. Whether you're a seasoned edibles enthusiast or just starting out on your cannabis journey, the Bite Me Edibles Journal is an essential tool for anyone interested in enjoying their edibles to the fullest. Take control of your high life with this convenient and helpful resource. Add it to your Amazon cart today. Tap the link in the show notes.